Hi, I'm David Ware with the Arkansas State Archives. And this week, I'd like to give a shout out to my former colleagues in the Arkansas Secretary of State's office who are preparing for the fall elections. This week, they have been working hard, certifying signatures on petitions for various initiated measures, some vying for a place on the November ballot. This fall, also at the state capitol, my old collaborator and friend Jen Hughes is going to be mounting an exhibit in the Capitol's display cases dealing with the history of elections in Arkansas and nationwide. And we are going to be collaborating with her on this. And so I wanted to give a plug for that and to talk a little bit about the history of elections in Arkansas, at least as it's represented in the collections of the Arkansas State Archives. The State Archives is a repository of all sorts of things. Both documents and artifacts. And one of our most cherished artifacts is this piece of voting high technology from the 1850s. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a ballot box. The early days of American elections, local elections were simply canvassed by hands or yea or nay, a voice vote. In the 19th century, though, it progressed to ballots being written or printed on paper. Initially, people would simply write the names of their candidates, stick them in the slot. The box would be locked, of course, so nobody could get in and interfere with the number of ballots cast or who they were cast for. This would be taken, counted. The results would be sent into the county. The county would send the results into the Secretary of State or whoever was in charge of the election in that particular state. And so the deed was done. We pretty much work the same system today, just technologically updated and so forth. But this was high technology for the middle of the 19th century. During the 19th century, the form of the ballot changed from pieces of paper on which you wrote the names of your preferred candidates down to, by the middle of the 19th century, ballots printed by each political party. Candidates would have to pay to get their names on these ballots. This covered the cost of the party running the election, that sort of thing. We have several examples in our collections here. Here's a nice one from 1882, the election of September 4th, 1882, the Democratic state ticket. This would have been for Faulkner County. And what you have here is the whole statewide list of candidates. Then you have the county ticket, J.H. Herod for state representative from Faulkner County, a county judge, and so forth. And then at the very bottom of the ballot, you have something against license or for license. License in the sense of whether or not liquor could be licensed to be sold in Faulkner County. This was a simple ballot provided, as I say, by the party. However, there was a further reform underway. In the late 19th century, American states largely adopted what's known as the Australian ballot. This is a reform that originated in Australia. Instead of the parties printing the ballots, in fact, the state government or the county government or the municipality would be responsible for supplying the ballots. That way ensuring there was no fraud, that sort of thing. The ballots would be provided to people at the polling place rather than allowing them to carry them in and carry several extras in their pockets. That way they couldn't stuff the ballot box. We have here an example of an Australian ballot. This is for the Democratic primary election, Hempstead County, 1904. And you see there are actually choices, and you would simply cross out the people you didn't want, leaving the name you wanted on the ballot. You didn't have to be able to write in anybody, although there were, in some cases, there would be places to write in. Now, as I say, this was adopted ostensibly as a reform measure to clean up the elections. It had a consequence that may or may not have been intended. Historian Jill Lepore, writing back in 2008, noted that the institution of the Australian ballot led to something else, not just clean elections, but the effective disenfranchisement of many African American voters. In Arkansas, an Australian ballot law was adopted by the legislature of 1891. In 1892, at the elections that year, we have a huge decrease in the number of African American voters. The percentage of black men who managed to vote dropped from 71% down to 38%. So much for reforms. We interrupt this broadcast for an important announcement. Our public information officer has informed me that I have gone on too long for this week. So tune in next week and we'll talk more about the reporting of votes, how it was until fairly recently, done the old-fashioned way, by hand, on paper, to be counted carefully, and to be reported in due course. Until next time, this is David Ware from the Arkansas State Archives reminding you, we have 200 years of election tangle and more, all waiting for you here to explore. Thanks.